Daniel. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Oh, where's my sound? What's going on here? Uh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh, it's just low, that's all. Speak
am I the
again?
first one so far?
Well, it's just going to be you and me, I think.
Do I need to put knickers on then?
No, because it's not going to be running around, are you?
No.
No. Unless something gets you, some historical thing gets you super excited. You have to jump up and down.
You in your youth, Richard, and your cherub-like face.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's an effect.
you're my favorite aging twink. You know that.
It's never a twink. Never a twink. Just in case. So, all right then. Look, on the day before the walk, somebody tried to commit suicide on my street. So
Gee.
that was an ill omen. Some gay guy that lives up the road. He was trying to jump out of his window. There was loads of police and everything. So that was an ill omen. Uh, and then, well, we got there. I was super tired already because I was trying to instigate getting up quite early. Anyway, so I was quite tired. Um, so anyway, by the by, you arrived. Let's get that out of the way.
I'm here.
Yes, no, but you arrived at the wrong part of Greenwich. Well, 100. You were 200 yards off, weren't you?
Something like that. And how do I get rid of this fucking phone? Oh, fuck off. Oh, stop these bloody noises.
What's happening?
Right, I think I've just managed to silence that.
You seem to be so
I often have
popular.
my phone. It's just Roberto asking. Oh, I was-
What
two
you want for
two
dinner?
seconds, Rich.
Oh,
I It's just some really silly thing. Let me just get rid of him. I really would be 2 seconds.
okay.
Hang on. Blah 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 blah. I have got this. Hotel. Uh, right. I should shut him up. Okay.
Okay.
I still listen. I really like the nighttime walks. It is just going to limit us about things being open, so we just need to um
Yeah,
work
it's a little
around
bit.
those things.
Yeah, a little bit more planning.
But
On
I think
my
I
on my
think
part.
when you were going in your bit of your meltdown, I was really having a lovely moment. I was really enjoying it. Then suddenly you start freaking out. And I thought I'm being quiet because I'm feeling actually really um, de-stressed. But perhaps my stress was transferred, had evaporated from me and put itself on you. So I really empathise with you because sometimes when people are really quiet, I think, what the fuck's going on? Why aren't people talking? So I kind of get exactly that feeling because I felt that as well. But I was really having a nice time. I was looking up at the leaves and how the light was capturing the leaves in the dark sky and all this stuff, like a romantic moment smashed by you behaving like me last week.
Well, well, thank you for that insight. I think this was my turn after the week before when Simon was quietly going mad and everybody else when we were taking the wrong turning, and I was walking along thinking, "This is bliss. This is bliss." You know, totally unaware that everybody else was seething. You know what I mean, and holding in their own meltdowns. So, yeah.
Well,
Well,
I was able to slowly ride my bicycle for a while, so that was not so bad with endless suburban streets, but it but I know I really enjoyed the Hammersmith and Chiswick walk.
yeah, but
And
we
we should do more of the river.
yes, we should. I love the river ones, but let's get back onto this Greenwich one. So Greenwich lies south of the Thames, facing the Isle of Dogs.
Mhm.
Until the railway age, it was always quite physically separate from central London, an impression that remains to this day. Its ease of access for ships, high hills, and hunting grounds help explain its Old English name, Grennywick, or Green Trading Settlement or Harbour. These attributes attracted the Tudors, who from the late 15th century turned a sleepy hamlet into one of the royal favourite residences and thus fundamentally changed Greenwich's development thereafter. Um, the first thing that he directed us to look at were these almshouses, which, I don't know, we didn't spend too much time on that. We sort of looked behind us at the second thing. Well, hold on. He said the almshouses, he says, was a good spot to pause and read about early Greenwich's history before carrying on. There was a Roman settlement here. However, Greenwich was first properly settled by the Saxons, probably in the 6th century. In 1012, an invading Viking army arrived and based themselves here for 3 years, anchoring their ships in the Thames and camping on the high hills. You'll see later a famous church dedicated to Alfie, the Archbishop of Canterbury, who the Vikings held hostage in Greenwich before brutally murdering him. And that was my favourite thing of the whole walk, and it was just immediately there. I still think about it now, I still have it, the pictures in my mind of these Vikings up in the hills and this guy Alfiji being, they probably cut him open and all of this, but yeah, so that was my favourite bit right at the beginning. All imagine their boats all tied up down the bottom.
I think he's left out a few really interesting bits of Greenwich. The main church in Greenwich. We walked past it in the main sort of shopping area.
Well, that's
Big.
Alfiji's church. It's named after
Is
this.
that what?
Yeah, Simon.
Okay.
Simon and I, and it does come into the book, but
Oh,
we
it
missed
does
that.
because also there's a little alley that runs on the right hand side of the church. Because I used to go when I lived in East London. I used to go over from the Isle of Dogs using the Greenwich Foot Tunnel to Greenwich a lot back in the early 90s. And I used to go to the market back even in the late 80s. But there's this little alleyway that has remained unchanged. I mean, it really could be used for a period film set, 100, 200 years ago easily. And then behind there, you have a bit of a graveyard and some ancient cottages, really tiny. And there might be, I don't know, grave digger cottages, I don't know, but they are teeny. And there's a terrace of them on the right-hand side at the back of the church. So there's sort of a little bit of a green space, and then some sort of hall that is very
You've roboted and frozen again. I can't hear you.
but it's quite tucked away. It's one of those areas you wouldn't someone good. Hang on a second. What?
I'm just imagining you striding around your apartment in the nud.
I never wear clothes indoors. Never. It's
You do
I
when you have
suppose some sort of
guests.
like nudist thing.
You do when you have guests.
Not always. Most of the time. There was this very fat, very liberal girl I knew, and then she got really freaked out that I was just wearing no clothes in the morning. I thought, well, I've been looking at your tits all bloody night, so somehow it didn't work the other way around.
Penis is a weapon.
Well, not one mine's not my size.
Right. Anyway,
average cock with big balls.
these things you're saying, these things that you're saying that he hasn't written in, we don't know yet because we only got one, maybe a third round the walk. So
So we need to go back and do it again. I think
yes.
actually, in many ways, it's quite nice to do these things a day and night. They could be two-parters, and not necessarily. We could leave several weeks between going back and doing part two, even. Possibly.
Possibly, but I'm the kind of guy when I've started something, I like to finish it. So like if he says we're going from here to there, then we're gonna fucking. I'm a bit obsessive compulsive like that. I mean,
The only thing then, Rich, we'll have to do places like Greenwich during the day because
yeah, that's
anything that
fine.
has a park with a gate or something like that, we're not be able to go in after a certain time in the early evening or late afternoon.
Yeah. Well, I think well that's fine. It just means that I have to be a little bit more on it. You know what I mean? Sort of. I just because been to Greenwich once in the evening and it'd all been open and all the rest of it. I just assumed, sillily that it would be the same now. And especially on bonfire night, I just assumed, it's going to
Mm.
be a wild party. But
Well, and let's actually lock it up, especially to avoid a load of mad kids coming over and setting a load of fireworks off.
yeah. Anyway, then he had us look back at this at the train station, didn't he? I'm
Yeah,
skipping because you say you want to keep it short, and that's fine. So I'm just going to try and get it into the one sesh.
sure.
Um, so, the railway station. The world's very first commuter railway line ran between London Bridge and Greenwich. Construction of the line began in 1836 and was operated by London and Greenwich Railway. The line was constructed over a huge viaduct comprising around 900 arches. Um, yeah, so Greenwich in 1845 was a small town surrounded by woods and fields with nothing in between it and borough except for the huge elevated railway viaduct rising from the landscape. So it was like from Borough in 1845 there was just a huge viaduct carrying the railway through like the countryside basically to Greenwich.
And when did that go, or does any of that actually remain? I mean, perhaps some of it's hidden, perhaps some of it's still visible.
He
And we're
says you
just
can.
not aware of it.
He says some of the arches of the viaduct can still be seen, but he doesn't state where. I mean, maybe they pop up in the walk, but he doesn't state where. You'd have to do independent research for that. I'll have a look and I'll try and find some photos and put them up on the in the talk when it goes on YouTube. So he says Greenwich Station is also. It must have been an astonishing sight to see, he says, and I agree. Just like seeing a spaceship on or a space rocket on a that must be astonishing to see those in the flesh. Greenwich Station is also historic, designed in a classical style by George Smith. It dates from 1840 and is one of the oldest train stations in the world. Follow the map along Greenwich High Street. On the right is West Greenwich Library. I don't know that was very. Oh, that was interesting about the man who built it. A rags to riches story. This guy Andrew Carnegie. He was the son of a weaver. They left Scotland for America when he was 12. As a kid, he spent hours in a library that was open to working boys each Saturday evening, and he later became a steel magnate, one of the richest men in the world. But he never forgot his homeland and his debt to libraries, and Greenwich was one of the recipients of his philanthropy.
But
So,
now he's being because we've got a Carnegie Library in Herne Hill. I mean, there's lots of them in England. Carnegie Hall in America, that's him as well.
yeah.
Um, I think he's now being written off as some sort of racist, or there's
Oh,
some
no.
tenuous
Oh,
tenuous link. Yeah. And lots of renaming going on. Yes, I think these people. I mean, you have to put these people in context, and also I think he's he seems to be a really good guy. Henry Tate demonized because his ancestors did have slaves, but he didn't, and he did a lot of good with the money inherited. So I really think these people should be championed.
yeah, this modern approach to
It's
history is, I don't agree with it. I don't, it's like, it's
well,
very, it's a bad road to go down.
It's a really bad road. And as somebody said, and I quote, history is not there to be liked or disliked. It's fact.
Yeah, it just is, and very few people are, 100% saintly or 100% evil. It's, you know.
Yeah,
you
yeah, exactly.
Well, that's disappointing. Maybe I have to rub him out of the scribble his name out of the book now, just to. There'll be
Demolish
nothing
the
left.
library.
There'll be nothing left.
Demolish. Erase the library, raise it completely.
It'll just be like, oh, history started with the Sex Pistols. Oh, okay. Um, it does in Richard Torrey's mind. Anyway, whatever. No, I can't slag him off when he's not here. Just beside the library, Simon, like this. As you walk on your right, the town hall is dominated by a big old clock tower. I've got pictures. Sorry, I forgot to do that. Where do I share screen? Here we are. Share screen. Where's the desktop? Or do I need to open it? Oh, there's files. Sorry, Daniel. I feel.
It's okay.
I think that's the wrong one. If not this. Greenwich. What? Are you looking at my Facebook now? You're not, are you?
Well, there's some computer screen thing that's come up
Yeah.
with some text.
Where are we? Here we are. Sorry. This is ill preparation.
It would be quite funny to have, if it exists, the audio of you and Simon, then me, and God knows what else, and Richard Torrey saying, "I'm always quiet."
Oh yeah,
Richard.
Moment. I'm always quiet. He said.
Yeah.
He said.
Can't argue with that.
No, yeah, but also I sensed that he was being a little bit more quiet in a way, and then I had spoken to him, and it came out that he was passively aggressively angry with me for something that I'd done a previous beforehand. Can you see this clock tower?
No, I could just see some sort of letter or something. What? Oh shit! I can actually zoom in on it.
New share. So
Oh,
there we go.
There, you can see your letter. Oh, okay, I must confess that last night's walk was a disaster.
That's why I put in the Facebook. Are you looking at that? You should be looking at this.
Well, it was on there for a moment.
Yeah, no, I put that in the Facebook group. It's quite funny.
Well, I'm waiting for me to actually be able to join after I shared Margaret Nolan's vag and tits on the page and got another 30 days detention.
Yeah. Can you see this clock tower now?
I can. Yeah, I'm very familiar with it. It's quite an impressive building. It's quite stark. It's not the most beautiful Art Deco building. It looks more like some sort of electrical generator or something.
Well, at this point, we were supposed to go up Royal Hill, and there was as always, I'm not the greatest map reader. The maps in here aren't the greatest. There's little moments of confusion. I asked this guy who was walking past, I said, "Is this Royal Hill?" And he goes, "I don't know, mate." And he just went walking. And then I looked at the sign, and the sign said Royal Hill. He had just walked up Royal Hill with a bag of shopping. He fucking knew it was Royal Hill. He was just being a Greenwich cunt.
Well, if he had a bag of shopping, he obviously was on a mission somewhere. So
he obviously knows where he is. He's not like
possibly
a fucking stranger. Fucking arsehole. Him. Anyway,
so
that put me in a bad mood.
So I've been up part of, I'm sure I've been up part of Royal Hill before, because those little pubs, I'm sure I've drank at those donkeys years ago. Really about 30 years ago. And I never went up to that area where it was that viewing
Hold
platform.
on. We're going to get to that. So the first thing was we were supposed to find Burney Street Park. We didn't find that, but Simon spotted something, and it was part of the book. It was Dougie Mullins Memorial. Do you remember who Dougie Mullins is?
Oh shit, I can't remember now.
I'll give
Remind
you a clue.
me.
I'll give you a clue. He drove the fastest milk van in the West.
Okay, he had a very old milk delivery. Was it horse and cart?
1932 to 1991 was how long he lived. He was a master dairyman who was born in a shop on the site. Mullins was by no means famous, but he was by all accounts a well-loved local character. His father, Bill, had founded a dairy on this spot. He was a familiar sight, pushing an old-fashioned red and white hand cart carrying milk around the town. He wasn't even a.
Wow.
He was pushing one around. We need to get back to that kind of, intimacy. I suppose is maybe the wrong word, but everything's so corporate these days, isn't it? Everything, there's no.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, I know the area I live in now since 1988, and it's all the characters gone. It's very sterile. So yeah.
Then we continued up Royal Hill. It was lined with pleasant houses. You encountered some impressive houses. Number 80 with it. Now, you laughed at me at this point. Number 80 with its unusual ogee arched windows. And I was looking at the wrong windows going, there you are. There you are. Well, they were bay windows, and I thought they were arched out. And, you thought I was a dickhead because, you said it's those ones. I don't have a picture of them, I'm afraid, but you said it's the ones. I will put that in the vid, but it was the ones above. When I was 18, if I ever thought that I'd be looking at windows, I would have thought, it's strange. It's all blood and. I was just
you're almost 50, mate.
You said that I'm not 50. I'm not nearly 50.
You told me you were 49. Have you gone 50?
Oh, I'm 39. I'm 40 next year.
You liar! You fucking liar!
It's for the listeners. The listeners can't know that we're fucking OAPs. There was some of those old ghost advertisements, the ones that are painted onto the side of buildings. Okay, and then we got to basically everybody's favourite. Well, it would have been my favourite bit if it hadn't been so packed with people. But the point, if you remember, steady. I don't want to see you meeting two veg there.
Well, I think you almost did, actually. I'm sorry. Just I dropped the fucking phone. I can't even see my fucking face. I don't even know what you're seeing.
I'm seeing you. I'm seeing your face, your shoulders. So we got to the point. Do you remember the point?
I do, because I never knew about. I've never been there before, and I certainly don't remember ever going there or even hearing about it. So
it was worth it for that, at least.
Yeah, but listen, it wasn't a disaster. I think you're giving yourself a really hard time. Probably, if Richard was being a bit passive aggressive, is very difficult to deal with. It drives me insane. I'd far rather have you have a bit of a meltdown like I do, then it's all over and done with. I'm perfectly cool with that. But passive aggressive, you don't know what's going on. Absolutely, they lock you out.
Yeah,
Roberto does that. He doesn't even do eye contact. Doesn't do it often, thank God. It drives me insane. But no, I thought it was actually I really enjoyed it. And I actually look back at it, to me, it was quite funny. Me having a lovely, calm moment and you suddenly going a fucking meltdown. I'm not lying.
Say something, you fucking cunts. Fucking say something, you cunts.
Well, I thought you were joking at first. I know he really fucking means it. It just smashed up my serene, unwinding moment. Look at these lovely yellow, golden late autumn leaves.
I'm going to blame it
And
all on Richard Torrey's passive aggression. You know, that basically, I'm going to blame it on that. So it's all his
let's do
fault.
that.
It's all his
It's
fault,
all here.
not mine. So
But
anyway,
I'm fascinated to know the point
yeah,
where you've got the fence bit and a very sharp dip down, like you're on a very steep hill. I mean, it's not a
yeah,
90-degree angle. I was trying to work out where what was down there because I thought for a moment, are we looking at part of Greenwich Park? But of course, we weren't. We're in the wrong place. But it looks like there was another sort of park, and you know that alleyway we went down briefly,
yeah,
where you thought because I cycled all the way down there, and it ends up kind of Lewisham Deptford way. And it goes on for quite a long time, that
yeah.
alleyway. I forgot all about it until we started walking down there. So on the left of that, there must be some sort of park or something because it looked like there was a sort of a big green space going down with various trees down a very, very steep hill
Hmm.
for quite a long way. So I'm fascinated to know what's actually there. The view was incredible.
Yeah, it was. There were too many people though for my liking. But let me just read what he says here about it. He says, "Go as you climb Point Hill because it's Royal Hill turns into Point Hill. So as you climb Point Hill, go to the Point, a pleasant green area that has fantastic views over London. Is a great spot for a picnic. It is. I agree. It is a great spot for a picnic, and in the spring we'll probably do that.
Mm.
Not far from here is the site of the legendary Jack Cade's Cavern, but he doesn't take us used in medieval times as a chalk pit. It was rediscovered by accident in 1780 and reopened as a popular drinking club and brothel. It's infamous for its naked masked balls. um, that was in 1780. You know, there were people have been slagging it up at any opportunity since time began, haven't they?
Yeah, and then Victoria made everything very puritanical for a long time.
Did she though? Because I was listening to something about her the other day, and it said that she loved the penis. She loved
Well,
getting sausaged.
but that wasn't that always the case though, that those, it's do as I say, not do as I do. So these people will do what they like in their privilege of their privacy.
Well, she wasn't a
Uh,
slag though. It was only off of Prince Albert, you know. But they were rogering morning, noon, and morning, noon, and night.
a little podgy donut of a thing.
Well, she was only 4'11".
Yeah, do like sort of a fat Judy Garland.
She was a little throw around, you know what I mean?
But I'd
During
love to this club thing.
yeah.
I wish it gave more details of where the location was. I'd like to
Well, he says that's
find it.
at this Jack Cade's Cavern. It's nearby, but then he doesn't point it out. He doesn't, which is a bit upsetting. During World War Two, it was used as an air raid shelter, but was then sealed up. In the 1960s, it was secretly opened again for a while as a concert venue, and it said that Jimi Hendrix played a gig there. All that can be seen today is a ventilation pipe buried in undergrowth behind a fence at the end of an alley. Well, I'd like to go to that spot, you know?
I'm happy to go to that spot next week.
Well, we could probably look it up independently and find it. Um,
Yeah.
so then he says, when finished at the point, um, continue on. At the top of Point Hill, you will see the A2 road. You are walking through Black Heath now, he says, named after the colour of its earth. For many centuries, this was an important gathering place for people in the district and a site where rebel armies would muster before descending upon London, such as during the Peasants' Revolt of 1381 and the Kentish Rebellion of 1450. So there's always been warriors up in those hills from the Vikings on, onwards.
Don't don't you find that Greenwich doesn't really feel like most of London? It feels very separate.
I don't go there very often, to be honest. I've only really that this must be probably the third time in my life that I've gone to Greenwich. These walks are really
Okay.
getting me out and about and seeing London in a way that I never really have before. Because all I've been doing is just Archway to Soho and then clubs, Dalston, whatever, wherever the clubs are. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm really, I'm
Because
really
I'm
getting an insight.
I mean, I've always felt ashamed that I know so little about my own city. I mean, I find having a bicycle really helps because I mean, I've got to know large parts of South London, Southeast and Southwest quite well. I mean, it's a vast area. But I've discovered areas that I never knew existed just by just randomly going down streets. I have a tree that looks nice, or a building that looks nice, or houses that look nice or interesting in some way. So,
Thing is,
but
I don't
I've
really enjoy riding a bicycle, especially not on my own. I don't. I find it's because London streets are too hectic for it actually to be fun. Do you know what I mean? That's how I.
I always do side streets, and there's so many parks and common land around here. I'm able to cut out pretty much every main. I don't do main roads. I don't like cycling on main roads. Um, but yeah, these walks are certainly opening my eyes to bits of London that I'm just not familiar with. Because, like you, I've gone from Soho to back here, and it's just the same sort of route.
Yeah. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the area was famous for its raucous biannual fairs. That's biannual, not bisexual or biannual. It's biannual, biannual fairs that were ostensibly for local farmers to sell cattle and sheep, but were in reality dominated by drinking, wild sports, and notorious for their freak shows. One advert from 1741, I must find this advert, advertised a woman 38 years of age, alive, with two heads, one above the other, no hands, fingers, or toes, yet she can dress, undress, knit, sew, read, and sing. As with many
I find that
traditional.
very hard to believe. I'd love to think that she really existed.
Oh, of course, it was, it was staged trickery, of course, wasn't it? As with many traditional London fairs, the increasingly prudish. I mean, she may well have been a sort of a thalidomide, but there would have been somebody up her dress doing the whatever needed to be
Yeah.
done. Traditional London fairs, the increasingly prudish Victorian authorities closed down Blackheath there in the late 19th century. Maybe we should bring back freak shows. We do in a way. You have it on the telly under the guise of sort of concern TV, don't you? Like sometimes. But
Yeah. Yeah, a
uh,
lot.
uh, the roads around here, particularly the old Watling Street, built originally by the Romans, were plagued. Ah, I like this. The roads around here, particularly the old Watling Street, built originally by the Romans, were plagued for centuries by highwaymen. Before the area was developed into a suburb, many travellers would have once followed this route anxiously on a dark night. I was anxious. I was anxious, counting down the minutes to reach the safety of central London. Their anxiety may not have been helped by the then common sight of the corpses of hanged highwaymen rotting away in gibbets as a deterrent. The London diarist Samuel Pepys wrote in the late 17th century of seeing one disintegrating corpse as he travelled along. It was a filthy sight, he said. Um, Do you
You
think
have
that? Do you think A?
someone.
Do you think we should bring back the death penalty? And B, if so, should we hang the corpses in gibbets as a warning?
Well, I see Diane Abbott and Jeremy Corbyn, and I wouldn't mind seeing Boris Johnson as well. I'm trying to think who else. Not I could go on for years. I could name people I despise.
But do you really think they should be killed because you don't like them?
Literally, is this a sensible question?
Um, Now, then, I think that I got anxious when he mentioned that. I think I tripped back because this is where things started to fall apart. The map was getting slightly difficult to read. Thankfully, you were there and you knew the next thing that we were going to, which was the Ranger's house. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, you were getting a bit anxious.
Yeah, there was,
Yes, and I could see it, and
yeah,
I was going for a wee.
yeah. It was the map was confusing me. I was suddenly sensing Richard's passive aggression. I was beginning to freak out at this point. So we soon you reach the General Wolfe Road. This is named after Major James General Wolfe. Well, this is because we were getting to a bit of military history here, and Richard had been quite
Oh,
catty at the beginning, saying, "I hope we're not having any of that boring military stuff." And I'm like, well, you can't really divorce any country's history from its military history, especially England's, because we've been so, strong in that respect in recent couple of centuries. You know what I mean?
and particularly Greenwich.
Why do you say particularly Greenwich?
Well, because the wasn't it the naval navy was based in Greenwich. You've got all the big naval bit, haven't you, in Greenwich, which we didn't see.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
probably in here, but we didn't get to that. Um,
There's a very I rather like it. A film called Indiscreet. It's a Stanley Donen film with Ingrid Bergman and Cary Grant, 1958, and it's all filmed in London. They film a whole load of it in Greenwich. There's a ball, and they use the big Royal Navy. It's very famous. There's a massive mural on the ceiling.
what time period
Um,
is the film set in?
it was set when it was made, late 50s.
Oh, okay, so it's not 1780s or anything like that.
No. She's an actress, and I know some
He's a
American
cad.
diplomat over here.
He's a
He's a
cat.
cad, yes.
But an
It has the happy end.
actress is just a euphemism for a whore, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it was. It was very much.
Soon you reach.
The actress of
Well,
America.
then we could talk about Nell Gwyn, but that was last week's. But Nell Gwyn was one of the was a good time girl, that one of the few ones that make good. But that's another. Anyway, Major James General Wolfe, who famously died aged just 32 while leading British forces to victory over the French at the Battle of Quebec and so securing Canada for the British Empire. Already a major in the army at the age of just 18, this remarkable man moved to Greenwich with his family in 1738, living in Macartney House on Chesterfield Walk, near to the Ranger's house seen shortly. Like many of the greatest war heroes, Wolfe was a restless, intriguing figure regarded with suspicion by many of his contemporaries. Some less gifted and no doubt jealous military men questioned his sanity, which caused the scornful George II to remark, "Mad is he? Then I hope he will bite some of my other generals." To pass on the disease of his particular kind of madness. Then we got to. You were fundamental in this. We found the Ranger's house. I'm not sure if you hadn't been there. I think we would have been probably 10 minutes of fucking about before we even found it. So thank you for that. Do you.
You're welcome.
This is the Ranger's house. There's a
Yeah.
funny little man. Look, you can see a little man's head above the door.
Mm.
I wonder who that is. Do you want to talk about this a little bit? I think we've got about 5 minutes left before this.
I don't really know. I don't really know much
Oh,
about
you
it. I
just
mean,
knew
it's
where it is.
reasonably isolated. I think it's English Heritage run it, so it is open to the public. I've been in once.
Yeah, the imposing Georgian Villa, Ranger's house. The imposing Georgian Villa dates from 1723 and today houses the Werner collection, works of art assembled by the diamond magnate St. Julius Werner, 1850 to 1912. Among the 700 items in the collection are Old Masters, Renaissance bronzes, and portraits by Sir Joshua Reynolds and George Romney. Earlier residents of this house include senior Navy figures, but its current name relates to the office of the Ranger of Greenwich Park, a largely honorary title bestowed under royal patronage. In 1815, the house was used as a grace and favour residence for the then Ranger Princess Sophia Matilda. The last Ranger left the house in 1896, so now it is a gallery. Did you enjoy the gallery when you went to it?
I was a long time ago, but it was impressive. But also the grounds are quite nice. You were wanting.
Speaking
You were
of the
wanting to find
grounds,
bar.
I was desperate to find Princess Caroline's sunken bath. It says just beside the house are some remains at ground level of Princess Caroline's sunken bath. Caroline came from Brunswick and married George, the Prince of Wales, in 1795. Despite her status as the Princess of Wales, she was very publicly spurned by her husband, but she was popular with the masses. When he became King George IV in 1820, they had lived apart for over 20 years, and he refused her desperate attempts to attend the coronation ceremony. She couldn't even come. The bitter marriage both appalled and fascinated the chattering classes of the country. George's camp blamed Caroline for the split, due in part, they claimed, because of her awful hygiene problems and love of raw onions and garlic. Caroline lived in a grand building on this site known as the Montague House between 1798 and 1814. So, okay, that must have been a house that was next to the Rangers.
Yeah.
She hosted many decadent parties here. Allegations of the orgies leading to various inquiries into her behaviour by politicians. Her estranged husband later vindictively demolished the house after she moved abroad, and the remnants of the bath, discovered in 1909, are all that survive of her era. When Caroline died, thousands accompanied her coffin, and the authorities shot dead two men in the crowd as the mob tried to travel through Kensington. Blimey.
So this is actually far more interesting because I thought they moved the bath to the Rangers' house. That's how I understood it on the night.
Yeah.
But this is actually it in situ.
Yeah.
But because it's sunken, it they couldn't demolish it. They could only fill it in.
Yeah.
And even see some tiles down there.
can,
So
yeah.
it's really fascinating.
And I was desperate to see this, and not seeing this really use a hippie phrase, really bummed me out. And then it was downhill from here.
Really, I could feel that's when all my sereneness had absolutely exited, and then I had a moment when I was slightly anxiously trying to find this fucking bath and saying to you about 90 times, because I could say something to you 5,000 times, and if you don't want to listen, you won't listen. So Richard, I don't think it's around the house, but not on the front bit. But you weren't listening. You're in the zone at that point.
I didn't understand why nobody else seemed to give a fuck about Princess Caroline's sunken bath. I just didn't get it. I was like, I must see this bath. So.
We will see her bath during the day when we go back to the point, and we look also for this incredible loose club that Jimi Hendrix is supposed to have played. It's been filled in and used all over the centuries.
And this is her.
Is this her?
Yeah. I mean,
quite a big chest.
Well, she doesn't look like that much of a looker to me, but so anyway, we discovered that the park was shut, and so we had to retrace our steps, which didn't really lead us to anything particularly interesting. We passed Daniel Day-Lewis's old house.
That's very effete. Well, sort of looked young from a few yards away, but was probably about 35 at least.
Who we
just
thought
split up
was
with his
gay.
girlfriend.
Yes. Yeah, he gets discussed. I think we discussed him on the chat that we did on the night. We discussed that incident there. So
there was definitely a bit of Biggins about him. It's like
a young Christopher Biggins.
Relative. There was a bit of a young Christopher Biggins about him.
Imagine being described as a young Christopher Biggins. That would be, especially to your face. That would be like, I would probably shoot the man that said that to me.
And that is why your girlfriend left you. Thank God.
Yes.
Thank God you didn't say what you said afterwards. That would have been one of those I want the earth to open up and swallow me moments. Oh God.
No. And then we went past the fan museum. That's it from the outside. That's the inside. I don't know. I'm surprised that there's a museum dedicated to fans can stay open. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, are they that? Are
Yeah,
people?
very niche.
Yeah, I mean, do fans have that many fans? If you see what I mean.
I know they are collectible, but I didn't think a whole museum would be dedicated. But hey, it might, I don't know. Is it a private museum? Is it someone's privately funded it?
Um,
Since all art council funding all goes to
I'll have to cut that out, Daniel. I'll have to cut that. The fan museum at number 12 is unique, the only one of its kind in the country, what about the world, dedicated to the art and history of fan making. It contains over 4,000 items and is housed in a beautiful Grade 2 listed building. Yeah, that's all he says, really. I don't know who owns it or anything like that. Or anything like that. And then I don't know. After that, we kind of there's not really much else to say, is there? We kind of just went down and had a nice sit down by the Cutty Sark, looking over the river at the wonderful vista of lights and little
soaking up
explosions,
tension.
soaking up the tension. Yes, indeed, soaking up the tension. Well, I had to reach out to Richard and soothe his feelings, and
Oh, poor Richard.
yeah, and then I spoke to him the day after and found out this thing, and then I'm like, okay, but then what about these two things that you did to me? And I'm not fucking holding them against you, you know. You fucking anyway, whatever. So
But
that
you're
was
good friends. You've been friends for donkey's years, haven't you, you and Richard?
yes, indeed. Yeah, I was around there last night. It was quite good. It's good fun. Just jamming out new song ideas and stuff.
So
But I don't tend to. I find most musicians, most pop stars, and that are fucking. They're cunts. You know. It's all. I prefer comedians where you really have to expose yourself. Good ones, I mean. You know, you really have to expose yourself. Whereas a lot of pop music is pretense and sort of lies. You know.
well, I remember seeing oh, what's her name? Paloma Faith, way before she was famous. And she was I thought she was lip syncing to a 40s record. It was a singer called Helen O'Connor, was like a big band singer in the 40s. And I was with remember I said, oh, she lip syncing to this. I've got the record. I really like it. It's called Green Eyes. And she says, no, it's actually her singing. And she has this incredible voice where she can just adapt it. But then roll on about 8 years, and I hear her name again. I haven't thought much about her and all that time. And she's doing this most dire pat pop on telly. But she was always very ambitious and she'll just do whatever
Mm.
is going to bring the money in and the fame. But the
Yeah.
sad thing was, I heard her as a very young woman, probably in her early 20s. I was in my sort of late 30s then. This is a long time ago. And doing this, I mean, it was so astonishing because it was a record I knew well, and I really thought she was lip syncing to it. It
Mm.
sounded just like Helen O'Connell's voice, a very distinctive American singer. But so it's a shame because she's obviously talented, but the talent's been discarded for fame and money, and probably only one or two people know that there is a talent there, rather than just being a rather irritating cunt.